Hi everyone, welcome to today's lesson, which is our first lesson on histograms. Okay, so in this lesson we're going to be looking at interpreting histograms. Okay, here's a starter for today's lesson then. So I just want you to find the area of those shapes, please, so those rectangles. So press pause, have a go, and then press play when you're ready, please. Okay, welcome back then. So hopefully you remembered that to find the area of a rectangle, all you're doing is multiplying the length by the width. Okay, so 0.9 times 4 is 3.6, and then the units are centimeters squared, and then so on. Okay, so 0.4 times 7 is 2.8, 0.3 times 10 is 3, 0.8 times 20 is 16. Okay, so moving on then. All right, so for histograms, okay, I shouldn't say examples there, you can ignore that. Okay, so for histograms, all right, they look very similar to frequency diagrams or bar charts, all right, but there are three main differences you need to be aware of for today's lesson and for future. Okay, so the class intervals or the width of the bars, they're not equal in a histogram. Okay, so usually in a bar chart or a frequency diagram, the width of all the bars are the same. Okay, but in a histogram, they're not equal, which is something we'll discuss later on. Okay, the vertical axis is always labeled as frequency density in a histogram. Okay, so that is something that we'll understand again a little bit later on once we do some examples. Okay, but frequency density is always up the vertical axis, which is the y-axis, so up the side. Okay, and normally in a bar we would be looking, if we were looking for like the frequency, or in a frequency diagram, we would look at the height of the bar to give us the frequency. Okay, but a histogram is different. Okay, it's the area of the bars, which is what matters. Okay, this gives us the frequency. Okay, not the height of the bar. So if we want to work out the frequency of one of the groups, we need to find the area of the bar. Okay, which will make a little bit more sense now. So you might want to write those three things down because they're important. So press pause and copy those in and press play when you're ready to move on then, please. Okay, if we have a look then, so just to confirm then what I was just saying about those main differences, okay, this is a frequency diagram here, okay, so frequency up the side, height of plants along the bottom. You'll see that the width of the bars, look, the class intervals are all the same. They've all got a width of 10, okay, and it's frequency up the side. So based on this one, if I said how many plants have got a height of between 10 and 20, you would straight away go to the height of this bar between 10 and 20, and the answer would be 7. Okay, a histogram then, look, the groups are different. So although we're using the same scale, okay, the groups, the width of each bar is different. Okay, some of them may be the same, but they're not all the same, is the point. Okay, so this one is from 0 to 15, look, and then this one's only from 15 to 20, 20 to 25, 25 to 35, and so on. Okay, up the side here as well, look, we've got frequency density, which we discussed as well. Okay, so instead of frequency up the side in a histogram, it's frequency density. So if we have a look at this in a little bit more detail now, okay, remember I said it's the area of the bars that gives us the frequency. Okay, so for this first group here, look, if we want the frequency of this group, so remember frequency means the number of whatever we're talking about. So in this term, in this case, heights of plants. Okay, if we want to know the frequency here, okay, so if we wanted to know how many plants were between 0 and 15 for the height, we'd have to find out the area of this bar. Okay, so it's the area of this part that's shaded there. Look, it's just a rectangle. They're all rectangles. Okay, which is why we looked at it in the starter. Okay, so we know the area of a rectangle is just length times by width. Okay, so in this case, if we want to work out the frequency, okay, oops, then the frequency is the length by the width. Well, the length here, look, is the class interval. That's the width of the group, isn't it? And here is the frequency density. I'll just write FD. So if we want to find the frequency, okay, that means we're finding the area, which is always the class interval, so the width of the group, multiplied by the frequency density. Okay, so in this case, it would be 15 multiplied by 0.4. Yeah, because the height's 0.4, the width is 15, so 15 multiplied by 0.4 means the frequency would be 6, yeah, because 15 times by 4 is 60, isn't it? And then divide by 10 is 6, okay? So that's important. If we're ever asked to find the frequency in a histogram, it's always finding the area of the bar, all right? So sometimes, and a lot of the time actually, we might know the frequency in the class interval, and we may need to find the frequency density, for example, okay? So we can rearrange that formula that we just used there. If I just quickly go back, look. So here, we said frequency was class interval times by frequency density. Well, if we want the frequency density instead, that would be to divide. Okay, and we've used triangles like this for things like speed, distance, and time, etc. Okay, so it might be a good idea to copy that down as well. Okay, so that means if we want the frequency, then we do frequency density times by class width, right? If we want the class width, then we do frequency divided frequency density. And if we want frequency density, we do frequency divided by class width. So if you can remember that triangle, it'll really help you in terms of answering questions to do with histograms. Okay, first example then, all right, so this shows a histogram, all right, so the width of the bars are 20, etc. It says the histogram shows the times a sample of students spent on the internet one evening. Part A says copy and complete the frequency table. Okay, so the frequency table means we need to work out the frequency. Okay, so we just said earlier on, didn't we? Frequency was just the area of the bars. Okay, so for this first one here, I'm just going to write the workings out in the table. Okay, so from 0 to 20 is the width. Okay, and the height is 0.1. Okay, because that's 0.2, isn't it? So half of that is 0.1. So for this question, you're doing 20 multiplied by 0.1. Okay, well, 20 times by 1 is 20, isn't it? Divided by 10 is 2. For the second group, 20 to 30, look at the width of the group, okay, is 10, and the height is 0.8. So that's 10 times by 0.8. So 10 times 8 is 80, yeah, and then divide by 10 is 8. Okay, so 2 people spent that amount of time, 8 people spent that amount of time, and then so on. So it's just the area of each bar, okay? The next group width is 5, okay, and the height is 2.8. So for this one, you can do 5 times 28 if you want to, okay, in the box method, and then divide by 10. Right, 5 times 20 is 100, 5 times 8 is 40, so that's 140, divided by 10 is 14. So there's 14 people that spent that amount of time. Between 35 and 45, okay, well the group width is 10, isn't it? 10 multiplied by, that's 1.4 there, look, 1.5. So that's 15. There are 15 people in there. And then 45 to 60, okay, the group width is 15. The height of the group is 0.4. We just worked this out the same as in the example earlier, didn't we? So that would be 6. Okay, so you find the area of each bar to work out the frequencies. Okay, then question B says estimate how many students spent longer than 50 minutes on the internet. So I'm just going to get rid of this that I've done in here a minute. So it's only an estimate, okay, but it says estimate how many people spent more than 50 minutes on the internet. So here's 50 minutes, look. More than 50 minutes would just be this little section here. Okay, so we don't need the whole group there, we just need from 50 to 60. Okay, so part B is just the same sort of thing, isn't it? It's just the frequency. So the width of the bar is 10. Okay, the height of the bar is 0.4. 10 times 0.4 is 4. Okay, so you could say roughly 4 students spent more than 50 minutes on the internet. Okay, so it's all to do with using that triangle, that formula triangle. Okay, so to find the frequency, you do frequency density times by class width. Okay. Okay, similar for the next one then. So this is a different histogram this time. So Emma collected data on the heights of pupils in year 9. Complete the frequency table and estimate how many pupils are between 120 centimeters and 145 centimeters. Okay, so let's do the groups then. So the first group, look, the width is 30. Okay, and the height is 0.1. So 30 times by 0.1 is 3. Second group, the width is 10. Okay, the height of this group is 0.5, so 10 multiplied by 0.5 equals 5. Next group, so width of 10. Again, the height is 0.8, so 10 times 0.8 is 8. The next group, 150 to 160, so there's a width of 10. Okay, the height is, oh, that's wrong, sorry. I've written 0.1 instead of 1.0. 1.0 is just 1 in it, so 10 times 1.0 is 10. And the last group has got a width of 20 and a height of 0.3, so 20 times by 0.3, well, 20 times 3 is 60, so 20 times 0.3 is 6. Okay, so we completed the frequency table, and it says estimate how many pupils are between 120 and 145 centimeters. So 120 is here, okay, and 145 is in the middle of this one, which might be difficult for me to show you on here without, I need that to be a straight line really. Okay, but you understand the gist of it anyway. So for this one, we'd have to do it separately, look. So we needed to do that first section there, then that section there, and then this little half of a section, okay? So the first part here, if I call this A, okay, that would be a width of 10 multiplied by a height of 0.1. Okay, so that's 1 there, isn't it? If I call this one B then, that's a width of 10 again, and a height this time of 0.5. So that's 5 pupils there. And then for C, there's a width of 5 because it's only halfway, isn't it? It's only this part, and that's a height of 0.8. So 5 times by 0.8. Okay, well 5 times 8 is 40, and then divide by 10 is 4. So you could say then that pupils between 120 centimeters to 145 centimeters would be 10 pupils, okay? Because you've got 1 pupil in this section here, then you've got 5 pupils in that section, and 4 pupils there in that section, okay? So for the main task then for this one, all right, it's difficult to do this from home. So the best way that you can have a go at some of these questions yourself now is if you go to MathsWatch, click 220, okay, and click on the video, and then click the interactive questions at the top, and then go across to the hard questions on the right hand side, okay, because the easier questions are all to do with drawing histograms, which we haven't done yet. So I want you to look at the harder questions, okay, and then on the next slide here, look, so this is what it should look like. So go on to MathsWatch, okay, click the interactive questions part at the top, and then you just need to have a go at these questions here, look, where you just use the MathsWatch tools to input your answers, okay, and then you'll get immediate feedback from MathsWatch then about whether it's right or wrong. Obviously I'll be available on the chat as well, so if you've got any questions then please let me know, but that's it for today's lesson, so thanks very much.